Some people call a tiny rock in the middle of nowhere home. These are the 12 smallest inhabited islands on Earth, places where entire communities survive on land barely bigger than a parking lot. Stay until number 1, an island so remote it takes a week by ship just to reach it. We are counting down from number 12 to number 1, from a frozen outpost in the Bering Strait to the most isolated inhabited island on the entire planet. Each one proves how far people will go to call somewhere home. Number 12, Little Diomede. This frozen island in the Bering Strait is home to under 100 people, staring across less than 4 kilometers of icy water at Russia's Big Diomede Island. Fewer than 80 people live here year-round, making it one of the smallest permanent settlements in North America. The island sits directly on the international date line, so Russia's Big Diomede is technically almost a full day ahead in time. In winter, the sea between the islands can freeze solid enough that people have historically walked across it. Supplies arrive mainly by helicopter or, in summer, by boat, since no runway can be built on the steep terrain. Residents are primarily Inupiat, sustaining a subsistence lifestyle built around walrus and seal hunting. During the Cold War, the strait between the two islands was nicknamed the Ice Curtain, dividing two superpowers by just a few kilometers. A frozen outpost facing Russia is remote enough, but the next island is Britain's loneliest inhabited outpost. Tafula. Number 11, Fula. One of the United Kingdom's most remote inhabited islands, home to around 30 people battling some of the fiercest winds in Europe. Fula's cliffs rise nearly 370 meters, among the tallest sheer sea cliffs in Britain. The island still keeps its own local calendar for Christmas, celebrating it on a different date than mainland Britain. Ferries can be cancelled for weeks at a time when storms make the crossing impossible. A tiny airstrip allows a small aircraft to land when weather permits, the island's only reliable lifeline. Fula is also one of the best places on Earth to see great skiers, aggressive seabirds that dive-bomb intruders near their nests. Despite fewer than 30 residents, the island has sustained continuous habitation for centuries. Britain's windiest outpost is remote, but the next island was built entirely from something the sea left behind. To Fadiyeth. Number 10, Fadiyeth. This small Senegalese island is built almost entirely from clam shells, laid over centuries into solid, walkable ground. Millions of empty clam shells form the island's streets, foundations, and even its cemetery. A wooden footbridge connects Fadiyeth to the mainland, the only way in or out without a boat. The island is famous for religious harmony, with a shared cemetery used by both Muslim and Christian residents. Baobab trees, some centuries old, tower over the small shell-paved village. Fishing remains the community's main livelihood, with small wooden pirogues lining the shoreline each morning. The shell accumulation is believed to have built up over more than 1,000 years of continuous habitation. A village built from shells is remarkable, but the next island is so small that one house is basically all there is room for. To Just Room Enough Island. Number 9, Just Room Enough Island. This tiny islet in the St. Lawrence River is so small that a single house, a tree, and a narrow path are all that fit on it. The entire island measures only about 300 square meters, barely larger than a tennis court. A small house occupies nearly the entire land mass, leaving only a narrow strip of grass around its edges. It sits within the Thousand Islands region, an area dotted with hundreds of similarly tiny private islets. Some islands nearby are so small they legally qualify as an island only if they support one living tree. The island became a popular postcard subject decades ago, symbolizing the extreme tiny island culture of the region. Access is only possible by small boat, with no room at all for a dock beyond a narrow landing. One house filling an entire island is extreme, but the next island crams over 500 people onto a rock the size of a football field. To Mijingo. Number 8, Mijingo Island. Barely the size of a football field, this rocky islet in Lake Victoria is packed with over 500 fishermen and traders living almost on top of one another. The island covers roughly half a hectare, yet supports one of the highest population densities on Earth. Every available surface is used for housing, fish storage, or narrow walkways between structures. The island thrives on Nile perch fishing, drawing workers from both Kenya and Uganda to its shores. Its exact ownership has been disputed between two countries, since the tiny rock sits near their shared lake border. Fresh water and food must be transported in daily by boat, since the rock itself produces nothing. Despite its size, the island generates a surprisingly large fishing economy relative to its footprint. A crowded fishing rock is extreme, but the next island is a remote outpost in the middle of the South Atlantic. To Ascension Island. These first islands already feel impossibly small. But the deeper we go, the more remote and extreme these communities become. Number 7, Ascension Island. A volcanic speck nearly halfway between Africa and South America, home to fewer than 1,000 people supporting a remote military and scientific outpost. The island sits roughly 1,400 kilometers from the nearest major landmass. Its volcanic terrain is so barren that early sailors compared it to the surface of the moon. Green Mountain, the island's highest point, was artificially transformed into a lush forest using imported plants in the 1800s. The island hosts a critical satellite tracking station and a Royal Air Force airbase. Ascension's beaches are also a globally important nesting site for green sea turtles. There is no permanent indigenous population, nearly everyone living there works for the military, government, or supporting industries. A remote military outpost is isolated, but the next community lives on islands that float on water itself. To the Irish Floating Islands. Number 6, the Irish Floating Islands. These man-made islands on Lake Titicaca are woven entirely from totora reeds, supporting communities that literally float on the water. Each island is built from layers of dried totora reeds, requiring constant maintenance as the bottom layers rot away. New reeds must be added roughly every few weeks to keep the islands from sinking. The Irish people originally built these islands centuries ago to escape conflict with more powerful rival groups on land. Homes, boats, and even furniture on the islands are traditionally woven from the same reed material. In ancient times, if threatened, an entire island could simply be relocated by paddling it to a new position on the lake. Lake Titicaca itself sits at an altitude of over 3,800 meters, making it one of the highest navigable lakes in the world. Living on woven reeds is remarkable, but the next island is one of Europe's tiniest volcanic outposts. To Corvo Island. Number 5, Corvo Island. The smallest inhabited island in the Azores, home to fewer than 400 people living inside the rim of an ancient volcanic crater. Corvo covers just over 17 square kilometers, making it by far the smallest of the 9 Azorean islands. A massive volcanic crater called Caldeirão dominates the island's center, filled with small lakes and islets. Nearly the entire population lives in a single village, Villa do Corvo, on the island's southern coast. Land here has historically been divided using a unique communal system, with families rotating access to farmland. rough Atlantic weather can isolate the island for days, cutting off ferry and even flight connections. Corvo's remoteness has helped preserve traditional Azorean customs largely unchanged for generations. A tiny volcanic crater village is remote, but the next island is one of the largest coral atolls on Earth. To Kiritimati. Number 4. Kiritimati, also known as Christmas Island. Despite being the world's largest coral atoll by land area, its population is scattered thinly across a landscape most of the world has never heard of. The atoll's land area exceeds 300 square kilometers, yet its total population remains only a few thousand. Its massive lagoon is larger than many small countries, ringed by narrow strips of coral land. Because of its position near the international date line, Kiritimati is among the very first inhabited places on Earth to welcome the new year. The island was the site of British and American nuclear weapons tests during the Cold War. Its surrounding waters host one of the world's largest seabird colonies, including millions of nesting terns. Fresh water remains scarce, drawn mainly from a shallow underground lens beneath the coral rock. A vast but sparsely settled atoll is extreme, but the next island is home to the descendants of a famous mutiny. To Pitcairn Island. The final three are so isolated that the nearest neighbor is often thousands of kilometers away. Number 3. Pitcairn Island. Home to fewer than 50 people, most of them direct descendants of the 18th century bounty mutineers who hid here to escape the British Navy. Pitcairn is Britain's least populated territory, with a population that has hovered near just 50 residents for decades. The island's only settlement, Adamstown, sits on steep terrain with no natural harbour for large ships. Supply ships visit only a handful of times per year, making the island one of the hardest inhabited places to reach on Earth. Descendants still carry surnames directly traceable to the original mutineers and their Tahitian companions. The island has no airstrip, so the only way in or out is by sea, often after days of rough Pacific crossing. Pitcairn produces some of the most sought-after honey in the world, prized for its isolation from pesticides and pollution. Mutineer descendants on a remote Pacific rock is extreme, but the next island held one of history's most famous exiles. To St. Helena. Number 2. St. Helena. This remote volcanic island in the South Atlantic once held Napoleon Bonaparte in exile, chosen specifically because reaching it was nearly impossible. The island sits over 1,800 kilometers from the nearest continental coastline. Jamestown, the tiny capital, is squeezed into a narrow volcanic valley between towering cliff walls. Napoleon spent his final years here after his defeat at Waterloo, dying on the island in 1821. For over 400 years, ships were the only way to reach the island, until a commercial airport finally opened in 2017. The island's isolation made it an ideal prison, chosen specifically because escape by sea was considered nearly impossible. St. Helena is also home to Jonathan, a giant tortoise believed to be over 190 years old, the oldest known land animal alive. An exile island for an emperor is remarkable, but the next island is the single most isolated inhabited place on the entire planet. To Tristan d'Acunha. Number 1. Tristan d'Acunha. The most remote permanently inhabited island on Earth, sitting nearly 2,500 kilometers from the nearest inhabited land, home to roughly 250 people. The nearest inhabited neighbor, St. Helena, lies nearly 2,400 kilometers away, itself one of the remotest places on Earth. The island is dominated by a volcanic peak that rises over 2,000 meters directly from the sea. There is no airport, only a small harbor, and supply ships arrive just a handful of times each year. In 1961, a volcanic eruption forced the entire population to evacuate to England for 2 years before returning home. Residents share only a handful of surnames, descended from just a few founding families over 2 centuries. The island's economy today relies heavily on lobster fishing, exported to specialty markets around the world. From a frozen outpost facing Russia to the loneliest island on the planet, these tiny worlds prove people will call almost anywhere home. And that is the countdown of the 12 tiniest inhabited islands on Earth. From a one-house island to the loneliest outpost on Earth, these communities prove that home can exist almost anywhere. Which tiny island surprised you most? Subscribe to Mini World Atlas, and next time we explore more of the planet's smallest wonders.